Kenny Esser. I'm with the Governor's Office, Chief Energy Advisor. My first challenge I received when I got to the job was getting an energy master plan out in the street, something that had been announced in October 2006 as an initiative, but for whatever reasons had trouble moving forward. Fortunately, we were able to release the energy master plan in October of last year, and I'm going to give you guys today a bigger picture of what's in the energy master plan, what the energy visions are for the state, what the challenges are for the state, and what we need to do moving forward in order to meet some of the challenges that we're just not going to be able to address in the short term, which actually in this case we're defining as from now through 2020. Over the recent years, we've seen energy consumption rise in the United States, like the rest of the country, on average at about 1.5%. That's obviously starting to plateau a bit, and in some places decline due to the current economic crisis. But I think that we all have the understanding that as soon as the current economic crisis is over, or we've moved past it, that we're going to go back to the old consumption patterns of the past, unless we can start moving forward with some aggressive initiatives today to try to mitigate that impact. A bigger concern to us actually, though, is the growth in peak demand for electricity. I think in some of the prior panelists' discussion, they've talked about peak demand for electricity. I think somebody even had a demand curve up there. And so if we can start to lower that peak demand for electricity, we can increase reliability. It's that peak demand for electricity that requires the additional power lines and everything else along the system that's necessary in order to provide enough capacity to meet that peak demand. That peak demand in New Jersey has been rising at about 2.5 times as quickly as generation capacity has been. How have we how have we responded to that? We've responded by PJM, FERC, et cetera, utility companies building additional transmission lines into New Jersey to give us that supply that we're looking for. Most of the time, if you look at where New Jersey is located, that power that we're importing is from coal country. We're importing it from western Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Ohio. Those are the places we're importing it. So we are importing basically most of the power that's coming in the state is going to be coal-based. The price of electricity has increased substantially. I think everybody knows that. Everybody's seen that on their electricity bills. The funny thing there is that even though the price of electricity has continued to increase every year, it took this current economic crisis to result in a reduction in electricity demand. For the most part, even though everybody complained about the rise in electricity, we still saw everybody's electricity consumption go up. That seems to tell me that the price of electricity just was not high enough to get people to change their behavior in many parts of our economy. Energy use is obviously contributing to greenhouse gas emissions. We don't have to touch too much on that. We've talked at length about that. Obviously, I hope at least that we've moved past debating whether or not it's happening, and we can move on into a debate about how to respond to it. Next, we've seen and tying into those increases in cost of electricity, that goes back. A lot of people come to me with a lot of conspiracy theories. A lot of it, if you really look at it and you look back, it's due to transmission line increases that PJM has planned out for us, but also the increase in the commodity prices. Coal has been up 50% since 2002. Most people think coal is cheap. It is cheap, but that price has also been going up. Why has it been going up? Because of our concerns of getting a cleaner product in New Jersey and cleaner power generation in New Jersey, we've had to rely on places further out west for that coal, and now it has to be transported a longer distance. That's one of the major reasons. Natural gas prices, I mean, it depends on the day at this point. A few months ago, I could have stood up here and said that natural gas prices are up 200, 300% since 2002. Today, maybe I can only say 50%. It depends on the day, and I think that raises an even bigger concern of, whereas coal, you've seen a steady increase in price. Natural gas, you've seen these spikes. So, one summer maybe the price of electricity or the price of natural gas is ridiculously high. Right now, it's fairly low. What can we count on for next summer? What can the generators count on for next summer? what can people, natural gas suppliers, count on for next winter, those prices being to heat everybody's homes, it's incredibly uncertain at this time. So if these challenges are not met, what does that mean for consumers in New Jersey? Well, it means by 2020 that our consumers are going to pay about double for electricity as they did in 2005, and our greenhouse gas emissions will be up 7% from 2005 levels. Let me just remind you that our governor has, and through Kyoto and some of these other agreements that are around the country, the stated goal that I've heard over and over again is 1990 levels by 2020. 80% reduction by 2050. Those are the goals that we're committed to, and that's why that 7% increase from 2005 levels is unacceptable. And then the last point is obviously reliability could be compromised. If we continue to allow peak demand for electricity in particular continue to rise exponentially, and we don't have that increase in capacity, we're going to end up having some problems with the reliability in New Jersey, and then that's going to slow economic growth. So how did we get here? Everybody knows, for a while, a lot of the blame was put on the incandescent light bulb. I would say that probably more than anything else, we're obviously moving into CFLs now, and eventually we need to move on into another technology even better. But there's been all kinds of culprits. There's PCs, cell phones, laptops, flat screen TVs. All of these things have come up, and these things are going to continue to be invented. There's a marketplace for them. People are going to want to buy better TVs, more efficient TV, or more high-definition TVs. They're going to come out with a new iPhone. There's going to be all these gadgets that we seem to be drawn to, that people are going to be buying, and they're going to be relying on electricity. Why? Because over the past 50 to 60 years, actually probably longer, 70, 80 years, we found ourselves becoming increasingly reliant and dependent on electricity as a fuel source to fuel our way of life. We've appreciated the reliability of it, the relative affordedness of it, and all along we've kind of ignored the environmental impacts of this infrastructure that we're relying on. And so what we need to do is we need to recreate that energy infrastructure to provide us what we ultimately need and what we want. We want ultimately a energy infrastructure that's reliable, has adequate supply, and that's neutral to the environment. And we're going to go over some of the ways we can try to get us there. If we don't, it's going to ultimately threaten our economy, it's going to threaten our environment, and I think we all recognize those concerns. And I think obviously with the preceding discussion, I think we're all on the same page there. In response to it, New Jersey's come up with our Energy Master Plan. In that, we lay out a series of 5 goals and a series of action items with each of those goals in order to try to mitigate these impacts. And let's just be clear, all we're doing is mitigating these impacts. At the end of the day, in 2020, we are still going to be emitting greenhouse gas emissions. At the end of the day, we're still going to be relying on the same or some of the same coal and natural gas resources that got us into this problem in the first place. All we're doing is trying to mitigate the problem, try to buy us some time for the science community to try to step in and provide us with some silver bullets that are going to be necessary in order to meet the challenges that we face. Some of those solutions have been discussed up here, whether it be electric vehicle technologies or whether it be compressed air storage or some other sort of electricity storage. Some of those things could be the answers. Or maybe there's other things that will be developed. Maybe fusion power will take off. Maybe some other technologies will. But ultimately, if there aren't advances in science and technology, then the Energy Master Plan that we came up with and released in October 2008, it'll look exactly the same in 2020. We'll be trying to find ways to curb energy efficiency and try to mitigate a problem, but ultimately we will still have the problem out there and we still will not have fully addressed it. The goals in the Energy Master Plan are fairly simple and straightforward. Reduction in projected energy consumption, 20% by 2020. Looking around at a lot of the other progressive states, they're all looking at something along a similar timeline. Some are 15 by 2015, others are 25 by 2025, but ultimately we're all in the same ballpark. The way we're going to do that are through building code legislation requiring new buildings to be more energy efficient. Having the utility companies come into everybody's home, we're estimating that requires about 300,000 buildings a year between now and 2020 need to be gone into, done a whole building audit of that facility and upgraded with energy efficiency. Not just changing out the light bulbs, not just the low-hanging stuff, but all of the energy efficiency improvements that need to be made, possibly with a return of 7 or 8 years instead of the easy things to do that are 1 to 3 years that I hope most people are taking advantage of today. Reduce peak demand for electricity, 5,700 megawatts, I've talked about that. To do that, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. We're going to test out different rate structures. We're going to test out different technologies to interact with the end-use consumer and to see what's going to get us that reduction that we're looking for. At the end of the day, it's a psychology experiment. What is it in the pricing signals, and what is it in